Alright, so this build has two parts to it. Number one, punch. Number two, dodge. Number one, punch. Number two, dodge. Punch. Dodge. Punch. Dodge. Punch. Dodge. Punch. Dodge. Now for the damage, you take a track cannon, 1-2 punch, and punch, and punch. 2 punches it does, 118,000 damage. That's crazy. And that is the arc build. Let's get right into it. Alright, so now let's go over a couple of the things that this build has that makes it so good in PvE specifically. You could use it in PvE. Not really. 1-2 punch doesn't really work that well. Alright, so for the abilities, you want to be running arc because that's what the build is. It's an arc build. Gathering the Storm, because using any other, well, there's only one other option, for PvE is not very good. The dodge, it's got to be Gambler's Dodge so that we can keep the cycle going. Combination Blow is especially important. So the required ones are the Gambler's Dodge, Combination Blow, and then the Aspect. I would still say are important after dodging. Your next melee attack has increased launch range and jolts the target, creating an aftershock. So if you saw when I was doing like melee attacks, you could see that it was aftershocking and killing surrounding enemies, which is really good for ad clear. This build kind of has two functionalities, the main one being ad clear, and the second one being boss damage, because with combined with a couple other items, it can do a lot of damage to bosses. Maybe not as much as alternatives like Celestial Nighthawk, but it does a fair bit, especially since it has alternative uses. And then Flow State, defeating a jolted target makes you amplified. Amplified makes your dodge recharge more quickly and more resilient while dodging, which is always nice. And then the next one that does the damage dealing is the using your arc melee ability or being hit by a melee attack will allow you to follow up with an extremely powerful counter punch. So the Liar's Handshake for the damage is needed for this build. If you were just to do the ad clear, not as much, but again, I would say it's recommended highly, as it will drastically increase the second punch, maybe not the first punch, but the second punch that you do on an enemy. As we saw, I think it did 118,000 damage. I'll have to look that up again, but I'm going to do some testing later so we can look more into those numbers. Tractor cannon that you want to use to allow you to suppress the enemy and to have a what's the proper term, debuff the enemy. So it kind of does the same thing as a Night Stalker, or it just allows you to do more damage with whatever you're doing. Pair that with a 1-2 punch shotgun, which increases your melee damage, which again will amount to the damage that you do to a boss. And all that combined does a lot of damage to bosses. This in particular one is important because it ups the melee percentage damage by like 100%. So it's a lot more damage that you'll be getting out of this. So that's kind of what you need. And now I'm going to go do some testing and kind of talk about how it works and the use cases, what it's good for, what it's not good for, the bing bang boom. Alright, let's get into some testing. Alright, so for the damage testing, I just hopped into Last Wish raid, the first encounter, because once I step on a plate, Shochi will come right to me, and I'll just be able to do some flat damage to see what the numbers are and how it affects the health bar. It might be easier to stack it up without Aftershock, but I prefer the Aftershock. Alright, so now 42,000. 30,000. So you gotta keep reloaded the whole time. But yeah, so about 42,000 damage, and we did a sizable chunk considering. But I don't think, as much as it does do a lot of damage, I think it's more for, like, I wouldn't use this build personally for damage dealing, because it does do a lot of damage. But I think what it's better at is clearing enemies and keeping you alive, because every single time that you punch someone, it heals you and it shocks people around you. So in activities where there's a lot of enemies, every melee kill will shockwave around. The dodge will keep you resilient and mobile, and the punch will heal you every time you get a kill. So it's a very fun build, and it's a build that you can stay alive for a long time for. Now, what it wouldn't be great for is like Grandmaster Nightfalls, or when you're underpowered, because for you to use this build, you're required to step out and run at people or enemies and just kind of be in their face. Now it would work if you got like the punch off, but then again, at that level, there's so many things shooting at you. You're better off going with Celestial Nighthawk, healing nades, or going invis, which is what I usually run when doing those end level activities. But for a fun build that you can do good damage with in strikes, dungeons, I think this would be a good dungeon build, because it's just got a lot of wave clear, and it's a lot of fun. So this is the build. You can run it. I mean, it's up to you. You can run it or not, but I like it. It's one of my favorite builds that I've made. And yeah, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe, please, and like the video as well. And if you don't like it, then you can not like it. That's fine by me as well. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. Thank you much for watching, and have a good day.